Okay, so today I'm going to answer a question that we got on our YouTube channel from Alex Blaze, and it was a good question. I'm going to put it up here in the video, and what he wanted to know was, basically, he said he's read a lot about how various lenses have aperture sweet spots where the best overall image quality is achieved. Many of these lenses seem to be the best. Least light fall off, vignetting at around 5.6. Yet you and most other content creators seem to shoot at the largest aperture possible for any lens. Can you do a video discussing this? And I think many others would find this helpful. And then underneath he writes, I've watched thousands of videos over the years and I have not seen a single channel address this. So this is interesting. Now you might hear us talk about, we shoot lenses wide open. Let's talk about the vocabulary first. The term wide open means you're shooting at the lens's widest aperture. So if it's an f1.8 lens, that's what you're shooting at. If it's an f4 lens, that's what you're shooting at. I'm using my Nikon 24-70 f4. So when I say I'm shooting this lens wide open, I'm shooting it at f4. When I say I'm stopping it down, that means I'm closing down the aperture. So your aperture is a circle inside the lens, and depending how big or small it is, that's how much light you're letting in. So when you close it down, typically your shutter speeds get longer and you're letting less light into the camera. When you shoot wide open, you're letting more light in and you use faster shutter speeds. There's also the depth of field question. When you have a lens that can shoot at 1.2 or 1.4 or 1.8, you're able to create a very out of focus background. Now I'm shooting at f4 right here and it's not really that out of focus, but if I was using my 50mm lens, I could shoot that at 1.8, which would actually blur some of the TV and the things behind me here. So why would photographers, when they, I don't know if you've ever seen these videos where they shoot the lenses against these little charts that have all these different colors and shapes in them, and you can see how sharp they are in the corners and all of this stuff, and they'll say that at f9 this lens was perfectly sharp, but at 1.8 it was a little soft. And yet the photographer will take that lens and go outside and shoot a portrait of someone at 1.8 because it just looks better. Most of the images of things that we take, like people, children, objects, like if you want to do a still life photograph, they all look better with the background out of focus. If you have the latest iPhone or Samsung Galaxy phone, they now have that feature where you can create a blurred background. There's a reason for that, because it looks better. It really makes your subject pop in the image. So there's a time and a place for both. I will say that when I am shooting people, it doesn't matter what lens I'm using, I will shoot as wide open as possible. The one time I won't do this is if I'm shooting a group of people and they are at different depths to the camera. So somebody might be standing where I am, and then there would be someone behind me over my shoulder, maybe a child in front. And if you're taking a shot like that, you want to stop down so you get more depth of field in your shot. That's one time where I would use a higher aperture, say f5.6 or something like that, and it'll create more depth of field. Now, a shallow depth of field, if you're shooting one person, is great. You focus on their eyes, their ears may be out of focus, but you're creating that real soft background. I think a lot of photographers just want that unique look, and you can get that by shooting your lenses wide open. And also, if you're in any kind of challenging situation with light, where it's a little dark maybe, you're going to want to let as much light in as possible. And that's another time that you would shoot your lens wide open. You're letting as much light in. You don't care about the depth of field so much, but you need your shutter speed to be faster. Now, I've been shooting with this Nikon Z6 II for about a month now, and first of all, I'm camping in Fort Myers, Florida right now. Beautiful RV resort, 10 minutes to Sanibel Island. It's gorgeous down here. But we took a ride up to Disney for one day, actually one night. We were there for 2 days. And I took a couple of images that'll illustrate this point. If you look at these two images here of my wife, the first one I shot at f1.8, and the next one I shot, I think, at f6 or something like that. I don't know, I don't remember exactly, but I'll put them up here with the information. And these were just little quick shots I took while we were waiting online for something. But you can see the out of focus background just looks better. And if you look at these two images I just took of some flowers on the ground, one is shot at f9 and the other one is shot at f1.8. And again, you can see the difference in how soft and the background kind of fades away. So this would be an instance where you would want to use your lens wide open. This was my 50mm 1.8. Typically when I shoot with this lens, it's at 1.8. I put an ND filter on it if I'm going to be shooting outside so I could still use the 1.8, and it gives a unique look. So that is a reason that I would use this lens. Now, I don't need this lens in my bag if I'm going to shoot it at f8, because my 24 to 70 I can put at 50mm, my 70 to 200 I can put at 50mm, and shoot those at whatever, you know, whatever aperture I want. So I think the reason you're seeing most photographers shooting wide open, as they say, with their lenses as open as possible, is because that's where you get the unique images. I can get a good picture out of my cell phone with no shallow depth of field. I don't need to pull out my camera and all my gear. I can get almost the same image during the day. So I think it's the reason why photographers do this is because of the, you know, just the look that you get with these lenses when they're shot like that. That's why you want to use lenses like this and DSLR cameras and mirrorless cameras with big sensors, because you get that shallow depth of field. Now here's some images I took at night. These were all shot at f9, f11, and I don't care about the depth of field here. So that is a time where I wouldn't shoot wide open. At night, when you're taking still subjects of, you know, buildings, or like these I took in, you know, Walt Disney World, it doesn't matter. So I could be shooting on any of my lenses here. It really doesn't matter. A kit lens works fine. The shots are going to come out the same, whether I use my M50 or my Nikon Z6 II. These are bracketed images, which means I took a few images of the same shot at different exposures and blended them together in Lightroom, and it gives a very nice, well-balanced, you know, it's like a striking look that you can get when you do this. This is a time when I'm shooting off a tripod at night where a lens being 1.8 aperture or something like that really doesn't matter to me. But when you go back to the shot I took of my wife, so let's say the Nikon 50mm, in all of the, you know, lab tests and the, you know, they really put it through its paces, and they decide that at f5.6 this lens is at its sharpest. But I'm not going to get that shallow depth of field. I don't care. I'm going to shoot it at 1.8, and my subjects will be sharp enough, and the background, I don't care if it's sharp in the corners, I want it to be blurry. So these are things you have to think about. You know, don't rely so much on the test data. You could take a $2,000 lens and shoot it at f9 and take a portrait with it, and take a $100 nifty 50mm lens and shoot it at 1.8, shoot the same subject from the same distance with the same framing, and I bet you the image you took with the 1.8 lens is going to look better. It may not be as sharp, but it's going to have a more pleasing look to it. So yes, there are differences to more expensive lenses, and corner sharpness does matter if you're an architectural photographer, and you know, if you're shooting specific things, you do want your lens to be as sharp as possible sometimes, all the way around. If you're doing professional work where you have to shoot for, you know, print or posters or something that's going to be printed very large, there are applications. But I think for the hobbyist photographer, and you know, the shallow depth of field is what's really cool about these lenses, and that's why you see YouTubers like us and other YouTubers and even the big channels, they will test the lens out and then they go out and shoot it wide open, f2.8, and they'll shoot sports that way because it creates separation. So that's just my thought. So Alex, I hope I answered your question here. If you guys have any comments or different feelings about this, which you may, and in your application you may need a sharp lens, put them in the comments. I'd love to hear what you say, what you think about this. Okay, gonna get back to my little vacation here. Gonna do some editing now, but I just wanted to address this one issue. Okay, see you in the next video.